whole problem lies in a nominal discussion. I mean, if bankers called demand deposits like call loans or demand loans, there would be fraud or not?
Well, if the banker would call it time deposits or lottery tickets, that would be okay. Nothing wrong with that. But when they call it a demand deposit, that means that if you come into my bank with $100, I give you a demand deposit, it means whenever you want that money, you can have it. It's like yours. And now I go out and lend 90 of it to someone else, and I give him a demand deposit. He also has a right to get that money whenever he wants. Now, the two rights conflict. Now, I have a tie here with the red and blue stripes. Only I can have this tie. It's my tie. You can't have two people that own this tie, the whole tie. Now, you and I could be partners in this tie. I could wear it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You could wear it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Sunday, we can let it rest. But if we both own 100% of the tie, you need two ties. You can't have one tie where we both own 100%. We can own it 50%, but not 100%. Whereas with demand deposits, this guy over here has a full right to the money. You have a full right to the money. It's as if you both own one tie. It's fraud. It's an abomination. It should be prohibited by law.
Don't you think that fractional reserve is not a particular case of a more whole topic or big topic that you have also studied, which is borrowing short in order to lend long?
Yes.
I mean, demand deposit, it's a short-term, very short-term credit to the bank, an infinitesimal credit to the bank, and they are lending it a lot, so they could lend a lot with a small basis of savings.
I think the two are similar. And Bill Barnett, my co-author, and I have an article in the Journal of Business Ethics saying that not only should fractional reserve banking be a problem, but so should borrowing short and lending long. Borrowing long and lending short is okay, but borrowing short and lending long, if I borrow, I'm the banker, I'm the bad guy, and I borrow money for 1 year, and I have to give it back in 1 year, and now I lend it to this guy for 2 years, well, there are problems there, and very similar problems. Now, Baggis and Howden have also an article in the Journal of Business Ethics, young, very brilliant scholars, both from Mariana, I think, very bright kids. Well, I shouldn't call them kids because they have, I think Baggis has his PhD and is a professor, and Howden is just getting his PhD. I guess I can call them kids because I'm way older than them, but they're very bright and they make some very good points, and Bill Barnett and I will be replying to them. So we'll see. We'll see who's right. And as I said during my speech before, there are controversies among Austrian libertarians with the same principles. We come from the same school. They're not socialists. They're free enterprises, as are we. And we'll have to see what happens in the dialogue.
You have explained that you consider that the counterfeiter it's a legitimate business if it's made in a fiat regime, because you are stealing the thief. But that same argument cannot be applied to fractional reserve. I mean, cannot fractional reserve in a fiat system be legitimate because they contribute to crash and bust the system?
Well, I would say, very good point. I would say that to counterfeit legitimate money is a crime, or should be a crime. To counterfeit money should not be. Now, this is one of the, there are three critics here, not Baggis and Howden, but now Murphy, Mackay, and Laura Davidson also criticized, and Murphy's point is, you're now taking Murphy's point, namely that there's a contradiction between my opposition to fractional reserve banking and my support for counterfeit money. And my answer is that if this is done in order to undermine, if it's done by the government, then it's no good. But if it's done in other words, fractional reserve banking is only bad when it's done by the government. But when it's done by revolutionaries who are against the socialist system, then it's okay. So I disagree with Murphy's claim that I'm contradicting myself. There is that distinction to be made.
Okay, and last, in defending the undefendable, you start the book distinguishing between libertarianism and libertinism. You think that the people you are defending are defendable from an ethical point of view, but do you think that they are defendable from a moral point of view, or it's the same, not the same?
No, I see a big difference. I have an article, I think in the Journal of Libertarian Studies, that libertinism is different than libertarianism. Take prostitution as an example. Now, I don't think people should go to jail for prostitution, so the libertarian view is prostitution should not be illegal. The libertine view is that prostitution is good. I'm not a libertine. I don't think prostitution is good. I don't go to prostitutes myself. I have a daughter. I wouldn't want her to be a prostitute. I think that would be horrible. It would be much better for her if she met someone who she loved and who loved her and they got married and she had sex with just her husband. But if she were a prostitute, I wouldn't want her to go to jail for it. So you have to make a distinction between, say, legalizing prostitution and favoring it. I don't favor it. I oppose it on moral grounds. Jesus Huerta de Soto made this point about ethics in the discussion before, and I'm sure he would agree with me that prostitution is not a good thing. It undermines civilization. It undermines, it's barbaric. But should we put people in jail? No. The same thing with drugs, say heroin or marijuana. I don't favor that. I'm not a libertine. But I'm a libertarian, so I favor the legalization. I think it would be very foolish for you or me to use heroin. It's a poison. But if we did, we're adults. We shouldn't be put in jail for it. The only time we should be put in jail is if we initiate violence against someone. If I punch you without an agreement, like either sadomasochism or boxing, where we agree to box. So there is a difference between libertinism and libertarianism, and I'm only a libertarian, I'm not a libertine.